right, cool. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our March Loki Community call. I am Kaviraj, and I am as a software engineer in Grafana Labs. Um, so yeah, usually, I've shared the meeting notes in the chat for people who are joining for the first time. Yeah, you can use this link to see the agenda, and if you have any questions or topics to discuss, feel free to add it there. We'll try our best to go through everything. Yeah, at the end of the session, we can also have an open mic. So if you have any questions, you can just ask away. Okay, let me share the meeting notes. And anyone see the meeting notes there, or is it just? Well, let's see it. Can you access the access this link one?
Yeah, I can access it. So for some reason it didn't show any notes that were maybe pasted before I joined the call. So maybe that's the reason.
Yeah, I pasted it at the beginning of the call. Maybe that's the reason. Cool. All right. So let me share my screen. All right. So in terms of like new release, we don't have much. We have just tiny patch versions since the last Loki community call. So both are with the. Okay, can zoom in a bit. Is that fine for everyone? All right. So yeah, I just put some highlights here, but I also linked the exact change log. You can see the exact changes that went into the releases there. Yeah, mostly it's a bug fixes. Yeah, 2.7.3 has this if it related to the delete request. When you submit a delete request with start and end time as exactly same, yeah, which will panic, and yeah, we have a fix for that. Yeah, we also have some panic fixes in 2.7.4, but also yeah, some other things like this one. I think this is the one I did, I guess, the CRA tags. So yeah, this is one thing which reported from the community. It's related to prompt time. So what happens there is we added this support for CRI tags. Just a bit of a context there. So if you're using this specific runtime, so we have this extra flags which tells whether the line is been the log line you're sending is split, like because of have a upper cap on the number of characters in the line. So before Loki don't have any support for this, it just treats everything as a single line. So we added this support last year, but there was a bug, meaning like this doesn't care about the log line coming from which stream. So there is a chance the log line from different streams can end up in some other stream during ingestion. So yeah, this release should fix that one. Yeah, and that is also fixed for the window event log, where yeah, I think it was scraping like incorrectly, and this is from the community. Yeah, and now the user data should be scraping it fine if you're using Windows event log there. Yeah, also feel free to add any more context if anyone worked on this feature, or if you have any more yeah, any more data on this PRs, feel free. Yeah, I just pasted like some of the highlights if you want to go through. But today I think we can spend most of our time discussing the LIDs, and we have something from Ivana also from Grafana side. So yeah, before moving on to LIDs, I just want to ask if anyone have any questions on the patch releases. I guess not. Yeah, also feel free to interrupt me. Doesn't matter. Okay, so before jumping into LIDs, for the people who are new to LIDs, so what this means is like Loki improve documentation. That's what it means. So meaning like, I think Danny created this idea where if you want to add a feature that is like big enough for significant, that changes different components or touches different components that need some consensus with the contributors or like community maintainers. So what you do is you just go create this LID, and then before implementing the feature, of course, and then you get the consensus, and then yeah, you can start working on the feature. So so the LID can be approved or rejected for different reasons. So we try to keep the LIDs merged even if it's rejected for the historical reasons. So yeah, yeah, that's what LID means. Yeah, Danny, if you want to add any more, feel free. If not, we can go with the howdy. Do you want to discuss about scheduler LID?
No, you did a great job. Thanks, Kavi.
No worries.
Yeah, I can start with the first one, which is an improvement document for improving how the scheduler treats the quality of service across multiple users within the tenant. So, Kavi, you may want to open the documentation link so people can follow.
Yeah, sure. One sec.
So the problem we've been facing in the cloud is kind of that we have, even though we have Loki running as a multi-tenant system, that certain tenants are so big that they have a lot of actually users accessing or using the same tenant. The query fairness between users is done within the scheduler already. But if you have like a contagious user within a single tenant, a single user could theoretically block other users' queries from the same tenant. And the idea there is to make the scheduler more aware of kind of being able to make the scheduler aware of like a concept of something like a user, or doesn't need to be a user, but any other, but the differentiation between differentiation within a tenant, so that these users, for example, within the tenant are treated all equally and they have all the same quality of service within the tenant. Yeah, it's kind of the proposal there is either to kind of add add just a second layer, introduce kind of this concept of users or whatever, which we don't really want to do. And the other proposal is to make a fully hierarchical scheduler, which kind of can build a recursive tree of queues, where with a certain API, you can, instead of only just specifying the tenant, which is mandatory anyway, but also you can specify in which bucket within the tenant a certain query would be scheduled. And since it's this hierarchical, you could like divide a tenant into users and a user within multiple other sub applications or dashboards or whatever. And like each of these queues then does basically a round robin pull from one of their sub queues, and so you can guarantee the fairness across like multiple actors within the tenant. So that's the kind of the proposal for that. Are there any questions? I think. I don't see any hand.
Christian, I think this lid was accepted, right? So which proposal did we go for?
Yeah, it was accepted going for the second proposal for the fully hierarchical queue, mainly because it's not much different from an implementation point of view to just add another layer. But it opens much more possibilities, and it's much more flexible how you can kind of do quality of service control within these tree of queues. Okay, that was kind of the first thing. The second proposal, or the second document, was about changing the sharding within the index gateway. This is not on the website yet because it hasn't been merged. So the problem we are facing with the index gateways right now is that we shard index requests to the gateway per tenant, which means we hash on the client side, we hash the tenant ID, and then execute the request of one of the assigned index gateway server instances, which means every tenant hits always the same index gateway. And additionally to that, the sharding across index gateways, we have replication of a replication factor. So it's not always doing it on a single server instance, but on multiple. It's usually 3 in the beginning or by default. The problem with that is that, of course, we have in multi-tenant systems, you have small tenants and large tenants. And by sharding just by tenant ID means that every tenant gets the same kind of access to the same amount of resources. So it's just the amount of instances that the replication factor basically defines. And but in the ideal case, you kind of want that the more or the bigger the tenant, the more data it has, the more resources it should be given, and it should be sharded properly, so you can scale more easily horizontally. So what we have to do now for scaling the index gateways is to add more index gateway instances and increase the replication factor. But this is then also globally for every single tenant, which does not make a lot of sense. So there are kind of 3 proposals again. The first one was to kind of define a dynamic replication factor for each tenant that so basically that instead of a fixed amount of replicas, so if you have instead of having a fixed amount of replicas for each tenant, you do that dynamically based on the amount of available instances. So to say, every tenant has access to 30% of the instances, and it calculates the replication factor accordingly. This is the same problem that each tenant is treated equally. Then the other proposal would be to kind of give a replication factor per tenant, and then you could shard it accordingly. You just add a shard ID to the tenant ID for creating the hash function. So a bigger tenant could have multiple shards, and therefore have kind of different hashes and different a great amount of assigned index gateway instances. And the third proposal is different from them, which is introduces or removes the concept of tenant sharding, but kind of does sharding based on the index files that a query will access. So, and based on the index file name, the index file name is basically hashed and distributed across the index gateways. this is a more general approach, which also gives the opportunity to say if a query touches not only one day but multiple days, it would kind of touch multiple index files over for multiple days, and they would be also sharded across multiple instances. All right, that's kind of the three proposals. The third proposal could be also extended additionally to somehow count the access to these files and kind of factor in that into the sharding. So files that are more often accessed kind of distributed or sharded across multiple instances as well. Yeah, it's kind of was probably way much into the detail. You can read it. You can read the PR as well.
So is this one already got approved?
No, this is still in open state. I think we have a tendency towards the third proposal, which is more generic and also is gives more options to tweak it.
Cool, makes sense. I have one quick question about the other proposal, the scheduling one.
Yeah.
So do we have any like a benchmark or like comparison how it's going to impact the multi-tenant scheduling one? Just curious. I don't need to find it on the.
So since it's not implemented, I can't can't say yet how it would influence it. But so what we will definitely see is that the idea that you have a sub queue for a single tenant, or that you have multiple sub queues to a single tenant, and treat all sub queues equally. It will mean that a single kind of user, that's what we will pass on in Grafana Cloud from like a Grafana user will pass into the scheduler as the second level. That a single user won't be able to kind of influence the other users within the tenant as much anymore. I mean, you probably still have an influence because you have just if you have a extremely large query with a lot of subqueries, a single user will have a bigger queue than other users. But when you're doing round robin and not waiting the queries, everyone should get their equal share within the tenant.
So one follow-up on this one, right? So this should also work seamlessly on top of shuffle sharding that we have on query path. Like let's say a single courier has subset of couriers, right? This shouldn't be a problem here, right?
Yes,
it's the same thing, but only
exactly.
applies.
So the kind of the shuffle sharding concept still applies. This is kind of to the first level. The first level is slightly different to the other levels, because the first level needs to take into account that a single tenant can have multiple queries to execute. But like everything past that initial, past the tenant scope, is kind of just round robin and shared equally.
Okay, cool. Good to know. I will stop with this question. Just one more onto this one. So are we planning to ship this? Do you have any this quarter, or we are just planning?
This is I started with implementation, and this is going to be shipped this quarter.
Perfect. Thanks, Howdy. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, if anyone else have any questions, feel free. Yeah, if you don't have any questions, then I think we have two other LIDs. I don't think we have this contributor in the call now. Maybe if he's there, can you please shout out? I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay. I think Caution has some review going on with this LID also. If Caution is here, also can give some idea on this. But yeah, or if anyone has any want to discuss about this co-processor, have already reviewed the LID, feel free if you want to jump in. Okay, then we can take it synchronously. Yeah, Danny, go ahead with the remote rule evaluation.
Thanks a lot. So this one concerns the ruler component. And just a quick recap, the ruler is the component that evaluates queries against the store, and then either produces alerts to Alert Manager or produces recording rule metric samples that get sent to a Prometheus compatible backend.
Danny, you there? Or is it just me?
No, can't hear you.
Okay.
The way that the ruler works currently is that
I think you got
sort of
break,
embeds a
Danny.
query component. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
Where did you lose me?
We are explaining about the ruler component itself. After that, we didn't hear you.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so the ruler itself behaves like a querier in the sense that it evaluates queries that get supplied to it, and it knows how to interact with the store or to query the data that's in memory in the ingesters. And as such, it also doesn't have any way of parallelizing queries. So what Mimir did recently, and what we're planning to do as well, is to implement remote rule evaluation. So what we'll be able to do is have the ruler just act as a client effectively. Like if you're using Grafana to query Loki or log CLI, we'll just have the ruler execute the query and farm out the execution of the query to the full read part. So that would include the query front end, the query scheduler, and all of the queriers. And in this way, recording rules and alerting rules will be able to be split and sharded, and all of the query acceleration capabilities that we have will now be available for rule evaluation. So this is important because oftentimes rules get evaluated and they're quite expensive to run. So for example, if you have an alerting rule that's being evaluated every minute, but for some reason is looking at the last hour's worth of data or the last day's worth of data, that can take quite a long time. And because it's running effectively as there's no parallelization happening by default. So by moving that query execution to the full read path, we get all of those benefits, and that results in fewer rules missing their evaluations. That's pretty much what happens if your rules run too slowly. They back up, and then they cause missed evaluations, which are really not good. It means you can miss alerts, or you can have gaps in your recording rule metrics. So that's really what this is aiming to achieve, and this is something that we hope to implement within the next within this quarter, which ends, I believe, end of April. Yeah, so we should have this soon. And I want to just reiterate about these lids that they are really designed for community collaboration. So even if a lid has been approved and merged, or if there's one that's still outstanding, we really want the community to engage and to ask questions and to really offer you all an opportunity to share your voice and to share your use cases around these features. So if you have a specific use case for this or one of Christian's lids or Li Guozhong's lid, then absolutely we really want as much feedback as possible. And please do read through it's the first lid over there, the introducing lids 0001, and that explains like what we're trying to do with this whole process and what the procedure looks like.
Cool. Thanks, Danny. So yeah, if anyone have any questions, like Danny said, feel free. And yeah, I mean, if you want to go read the docs first, feel free, and then you can also engage in the issue itself. Feel free to comment on the PR, and yeah, we're happy to hear you. All right. So if no one has any questions for now, then we can move on to Grafana. Ivana, you still there?
Yeah. I'm wondering, can I share my screen? Because I would also like to do a small demo.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so hey everyone, my name is Ivana and I am part of the team that works on Loki data source and logging in Grafana. And usually our team shares on these Loki community calls either features or improvements that were recently released or are going to be released very soon. But today we have decided to do something different, and we would like to share with you a feature or improvement that is currently in very early stages of development, and we are looking for early feedback on it. Okay, so let me switch to Grafana. And the improvement I would like to talk about is the query splitting, multi-day query splitting. And basically this improvement is aimed at users who run queries that span across multiple days. So let's say your query is, hey, I would like to see some metric query within the last 7 days or within the last 30 days. And sometimes these queries can take a longer time for you to see the data. And so we are currently experimenting with improving the experience. And the goal is to basically split these multi-day queries into smaller queries and then sequentially run them. This means that you will be able to see first results much sooner, and basically Graph will be filling out for you, and maybe at one point you will realize that, okay, I don't need last 30 days of data, maybe last 15 is enough. Currently, this feature is only available on main branch and it's behind the feature toggle. So if you would like to try it out, you need to enable Loki query splitting feature toggle and set it to true. So let me show you how it works. So I'm here simulating a little bit slower network. And so when I run the query, as you can see now, like each day is filling out one by one. And like, as I said, like at any point I can cancel the query, and that way I will only see the data for the already executed queries. This works for metrics query, for log queries, but as I said, it's currently in the development stage. So there might be some bugs, there might be maybe some experiences that you notice that are not best for you or something that you actually really like. So if you find anything, I have linked here the Grafana issues, GitHub issues URL, where you can create the issue or share your feedback. And I have also linked the Loki Slack channel, community Slack channel, where again, if you have any feedback, if this is solving your problem, if you would like to see some changes or just like share what do you think, we would love feedback of everyone who will try it out.
Super nice. Thanks, Ivana.
Any questions?
Pedro? Go ahead.
Hi, Ivana. Thank you for sharing this. This is really huge. This will definitely improve the way people are querying Loki, and we certainly have people querying multi-day things and getting gigabytes of data back. One question about the implementation. Is this shooting multiple queries? Is this somehow piggybacking on something new on Loki that I have foreseen that is part of our API? How is it working basically to get multiple days separately?
Yeah. So, by the way, Sven, if I say something that is incorrect, please jump in, because I personally wasn't working on this feature, but the people who are working on it couldn't be here. So basically, what we do is, if you run multi-day query, so let's say as we have here last 7 days, we split it currently day by day. So we run 7 one-day queries. And this is like currently only splitting, which we do, which is by day. Did I answer your question? Or Sven, is there anything you would like to add?
No, you're doing a good job. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, this answers my question. So this means if this is enabled by default, we will have basically way more queries against our Loki instances, smaller queries. So my question on top of it is, have you thought about leveraging the stats API or something similar from Loki to see, okay, if you may just want to shoot 7 days of query, but it might be just 2 megabytes of data. So why shooting multiple queries against 2 megabytes of data? Maybe making it more data-driven in future to say, okay, if I'm accessing gigabytes of data, then yes, split it. And basically Loki is doing behind the scenes the same thing, but having a little bit of heuristics here before shooting too many queries just for a very small amount of data. It's just the overhead maybe just having over the wire 7 queries or X queries might be just not worth it. I'm pretty sure when TSDB lands, we will have way more features at our disposal to answer query sizes from the index rather from the chunks. So it might be a thing to cooperate here and making this with a couple of heuristics more robust, or at least have a look on this over the next iterations.
Yeah. So by the way, this is a great question, and if you can see here, we already, like, in a sense, use the stats endpoint to show you how much data will be processed, and this is definitely something we talked about, because like on the other side, you can have a query that is, let's say, last hour, but will touch a lot of data, and we won't split that. So there can be, the other side of this. It was definitely discussed. It's definitely something we keep in mind. Something we would like to do or consider doing in the future. But at this first iteration, we have decided to basically to test like the visualization to make sure everything is working correctly, that kind of like like that user experience is good. We have decided to go with this like simple approach, but that's definitely something that we will consider improving in the future.
Also, thank you for providing this in the first place, even if in a simpler form. It's a very good thing. Thank you.
I also have a question. Do we run these requests sequentially or in parallel?
Sequentially.
Okay, I see. Because according to the network graph, it looks like in parallel, but might be wrong.
Sven, it's sequentially, right?
Yeah, it is sequentially. So once the first request ends, or we got a response from the first request, we send out the second request for the second day, more or less. And also, as you can see, we start with the most recent data and then go back to the older points in time.
Okay, great. Thanks.
One quick question though, maybe already you mentioned, Ivana. Is this already in 9.4 or?
I think it's only on main. I think it was added after the branch out, so you have to be on main and you have to enable a feature toggle.
Cool, thanks.
So yeah, looking forward for a feedback from anyone who tried it out.
Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, my question would be, since these subqueries are done in sequential way, what if one of these subquery requests fails for whatever reason? Does then the rest of the queries cancel as well, or are the rest of the queries executed? So it's just one part of the visualization is missing, or?
Yeah, I think it is the latter one, that you will basically just miss one part of the visualization. We started thinking about if one subquery fails, we would just cancel all the rest, but we currently in our implementation, it's just we will miss out the part of the graph.
Yeah, because I'm asking, because for metric queries, it's kind of, it makes sense. For log queries, you might not notice that the part is missing immediately. I mean, you probably see that timestamps are there's a big gap in timestamps, but
yeah, that's also good feedback that we might need to improve our UX, but also for metrics queries, if I think about it, would be good to at least know that there's data missing, or the data requested is not there, and that not that there's no data, because could also think that there's no data, right? Yep. Thanks already for the feedback.
At least something visual, like, hey, this is a partial result, something happened, like a banner or something like that. People will make I mean, usually people are using the logs, they make worth out of it, even if they are partial, because they get at least something, and yeah.
So to follow up on Christian question, is this same for this is only for metric queries, or for both log and metric queries?
It is for both currently.
Okay.
Basically, also might be good because we are looking for early feedback here. There's a little hack, like if you want to see like a chunked result or a split result and a non-split result, you can, to the little a, use blue a, Ivana, to the ref ID, you can just add a do dash not dash chunk, and do not chunk, which will then result in a not chunked, not split query. This is super good for testing if you want to see results like in the dashboard or something, if you want to compare two things.
Also, as you can see, also log volume is chunked or is splitted as well.
Have you thought about making it independent from multi-day to make it, let's say, multi-something? For example, splitting within an hour or within a day, for example. Because if yes, there might be a coordination improvement. For example, if you split, if you send a query to Loki, you get them split in half an hour by default, if I remember correct, or setting. So this means if you really are getting small, the actual results of subqueries, and you aggregate them, then we might need to stop doing the job in Loki at all. I mean, query frontend is doing exactly this piece, splitting, aggregating. So this might, might not need to do the job, for example. This is just an idea for food for thought, let's say, like this. It's not really something huge, but if it's get arbitrary how you split the queries and it's configurable, that might be a nice thing to coordinate with the subquery splitting in Loki. I'm not sure if Mimir does this. I'm pretty sure they have. We have this from Cortex, if I remember correct. But yeah.
Yeah, so at least from the front end side, from Grafana side, there's another little hack where you can at least also now to try it out, define the time range on which you will split. I'm currently not remembering how you will set it up. I can share it in the doc afterwards. So basically, you can configure the days or the time range which will be split, and I guess we will also at one point add it to the data source configuration in Loki itself, in Grafana itself.
Nice. Yes. It might be also cool to have it as an ad hoc toggle to let the user decide, because data sources are most of the times not available for normal users. Yeah.
Great. Anyone else have any questions? Not just Grafana or anything else we discussed so far, feel free. Also, if anyone is new, joining for the first time, yeah, feel free to say hi. And if you like, I hope you like Loki, you can just share your experience if you want. Or we can give back 15 minutes of time to everyone then. All right, cool. Thanks, folks. Thanks for your time. And yeah, have a nice rest of your day. See you next time. Bye.
See you all.
See you next time, folks.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
See you. Bye-bye.